Thank you. 5 years ago, right after we released Arts and Economic Prosperity 3, I received a phone call while sitting at my desk, picked it up. It was one of our Arts and Economic Prosperity 3 participants. It was Michael Cohen, who is executive director at the time of the Seattle Arts Commission. And he's now, of course, our great local arts agency champion at the National Endowment for the Arts. And he said, Randy, the most amazing story. I've been trying to get the mayor to increase our appropriations for the arts, but he keeps asking me, says, look, Michael, I'm worried about jobs. I'm worried about our economy. I've got revenue issues. What else have you got for me? You know I like the arts. What else have you got for me? Well, he participated in Arts and Economic Prosperity 3, our national economic impact study of the nonprofit arts and culture industry at the time, and it provided compelling data that was delivered to his business community, to his tourism community, the local, what it showed is that arts are an industry in Seattle. And he got all those folks together and he said, tourism people, look at the economic impact of how we draw people to the community and how those people spend money. And the business community loved the expenditures. One of the restaurateurs said, look, I don't need to check the weekend section to see if there's a great arts event playing or if there's a great exhibition. I see it in my restaurant, Cheeks and Seats. It's all right there, right? Well, he presented that to his mayor, and that turned the corner. And he said, I've got this incredible news, Randy. We've got a $1 million increase, and the mayor attributes it. He's in his release, he says, because of the results for arts and economic prosperity. Arts is a business. It's an industry. We love the arts. They inspire us. They delight us. They entertain us. We're going to stipulate that, and I want you to think differently about the arts today and think of them as an industry, one that supports jobs, generates government revenue, and is the cornerstone of tourism. Today we release Arts and Economic Prosperity 4, our national economic impact study of nonprofit arts organizations and their audiences. This is a good news story. If you're a community leader and you care about quality of life and you think about the economy, you can feel good about investing in the arts. So what did we do? Okay, we're over here. Arts and Economic Prosperity 4 is our most comprehensive study ever conducted, the most comprehensive study ever conducted on the economic impact of the arts. We studied 182 communities and regions across the country, representing all 50 states, plus the District of Columbia. And in fact, even right here in San Antonio, you could see that little effect. That was all me, by the way. No 15-year-olds involved in the making of that. I'll just show you that again. I'm feeling kind of proud about that. Thank you, thank you. Every community, we've got cities large and small. I just saw Mario Gard in a community of under 2,000 people and talking about how great the last economic impact study was and how great she's looking forward to using the next one. We've got cities as large as Chicago and Los Angeles and everything in between. This is a big-time national study. We gathered data from 9,700 nonprofit arts organizations. We did 151,000 audience intercept surveys to see how spending by audiences also benefits the economy. We're focusing, remember, only on nonprofit arts and culture organizations. We don't include the for-profit, so no Broadway, not the motion picture industry. We don't include individuals, artists, just the nonprofit. Now, a couple weeks ago, once we finally got this study in the books and you've all got handouts and everything at your tables, I actually got to go and participate in the arts. So my wife and I, we went to the theater, bought my tickets online in advance, used my credit card, and when the big day came for the show, we got in the car and drove there, stopped, had dinner at a restaurant, spent maybe about $60. It was a nice meal. From there, went to the theater. We went in, we paid for parking, went in inside the lobby, had a glass of wine, used the facilities, finally got in and sat down in the theater. And beautiful theater, beautifully lit, and it occurred to me, This, so far, is exactly what we're talking about today. And the curtain hasn't even gone up. Look at the impact that the arts are having on their community. Well, somebody had to program that computer, right? And the credit card, there's bankers and the finance person at the organization. Got there, the restaurant, there's a restaurant owner, there's a waiter, the restaurant buys food from local food suppliers, so lots of activity there. And then we got to the theater itself, had some wine, used the facilities. Everybody needs a good plumber, right? Plumbers are doing it, making it, bringing in the revenue. We sat down, electricians are lighting up this beautiful place. So, and again, before the curtain even rose, and of course then we saw a wonderful show, and we saw the performers, and of course artists, and all the people that helped create that event. They're part of this industry also. So lots of economic activity related to the event. So what did we find out? Well, nationally, the nonprofit arts and culture industry is $135 billion, that's billion with a B, dollar industry. $135 billion of economic activity every year. That spending supports 4.1 million full-time jobs in this country. 4.1 million. Those, and again, those are, remember, it's not just the artists. Those are jobs throughout the community. Generates $22.3 billion in revenue to local, state, and federal governments. Now put that against a collective $4 billion outlay, well, you've got a pretty good return. That's the kind of return Warren Buffett's going to jump on, right? So governments are pulling in a great return on their investment. So the arts organizations themselves spend $61.1 billion every year. And that right there is a myth buster. Arts organizations are good business citizens. They employ people locally in the community. They purchase goods and services from nearby businesses. They're members of their chambers of commerce, and so they're involved in the marketing and the promotion of their cities and regions. Arts organizations are good business citizens. And that right there surprises a lot of people because everybody appreciates the value and the wonder of the arts, but again, thinking of them as an industry. Now, the arts, like all industries, generate significant amounts of event-related spending. So the arts generate significant economic impact. Unlike most other industries, the arts generate that event-related spending. And so, again, think of the last time you went to an arts event. Well, again, you probably had dinner and paid for parking, and if you've got little ones at home, you paid the babysitter. Well, we did 151,802 audience intercept surveys, so a ridiculous oversample by any measure, and we found the typical attendee spends $24.60 per person per event, not including the cost of admission. $24.60, and you can see how those spending breaks down. About half of it's on food. Some of you might be looking at lodging now and thinking, can you really get a room for $3.51 anymore? And would you want to if you could? No, remember, these are averages. In fact, only about 11% of the attendees we interviewed had lodging expenses. But again, lots of economic activity related to the event that folks are attending. We also wanted to get at this whole cultural tourism notion, right? Do people travel for the arts? And what's the impact of that? Well, we asked each of those 151,000 people for their zip code, because we wanted to find out, do you live in the county in which the arts event took place, local, or are you from outside the county in which the arts event took place, non-local? Well, what we found nationally, 32% of attendees were from outside the county. 32% traveled. And of course, then the big question is, how does their spending differ? Well, it does in a big way. More than 2 to 1 non-local attendees outspend their local counterparts. $39 per person per event versus $17 per person per event, not including admission. So this starts to make a pretty compelling case, folks, that when we invest in the arts, we're investing in a product that draws people to the community, and those people spend money. Now, one of the questions that we heard about, and we've about the how the industry has changed. You heard Luis give some of the previous economic impact data. Well, we did the last study in 2005. This one was about 2010. And 2010, as we remember, a tough economic year, a year that we were coming out of the worst recession in generations. And you can just see some of the indicators that were going on then, right? And between 2005 and 2010, unemployment had almost doubled. Consumer confidence was almost half. The number of home foreclosures tripled. We saw people traveling less, staying home. There were fewer jobs in tourism and food and beverage. It was a tough economy, right? Basically, as people lost jobs, worried about losing their home, generally, they stayed closer to home, they spent less. Well, what did we see with the arts? Well, no doubt the Great Recession was tough. In the 2000s, we saw some increases, but then a pretty good scrape of those increases by 2010. But in fact, it was just about a 3% net drop between 2005 and 2010. So they held on pretty strong, arts organizations. Now, how about the audience spending? Well, that's where we really saw the big changes. We saw last study, 39% of attendees were non-local. That dropped to 32%. Last study, $27.79 per person per event. That dropped to $24.60. So people stayed closer to home, people spent less, and that's exactly what you'd expect. But you know what? The arts showed phenomenal resilience. Yes, we lost some seminal institutions during the recession, but we gained more organizations than we lost. And they hung in there. Even though with those huge 50% drops in consumer confidence and that doubling in unemployment, we saw ultimately a very modest decrease with the organizations. The arts are resilient. The arts are the Timex watches of America's industry, right? Take a licking and keep on ticking. This is a strong, tough industry. So, again, it's a good news story for the arts. Nonprofit arts industry in America generates $135 billion in economic activity, supports 4.1 million full-time equivalent jobs, generates $22.3 billion in revenue to federal, state, and local governments. And remember, audience spending, the real value add. Unlike most industries, this is something that the arts bring to the table. So, arts and economic prosperity dispels a common misconception that when we invest in the arts, we do it at the expense of economic development. Rather, what this study shows is the arts are an industry. We're investing in industry that supports jobs, generates government revenue, and is a cornerstone of tourism. The arts provide both cultural and economic benefits. Now, everybody at your tables, you've all got these pamphlets. Take it, study it, sleep with it, commit it to memory. This has got your data in it. This has got these numbers. And also, bring your attention to the back. Look at these national partners that we've got. Because when you go and when you talk to your mayor, or you talk to your county manager, or you talk to your chamber of commerce, you can point to this and say, you know, your national organization is a partner in this study. They've bought into the methodology, the finding, and the results, and they believe in the power of the arts. So, and don't forget, if you were a part of this study, you've got your own numbers, but if not, you've got a slide rule. We provide one at every seat. This thing's better than a yo-yo. It's a lot of fun. Estimate your own economic impact. Nationally, as well as locally, the arts mean business. Thank you.